Hi, my name's Peter. I'm one of the tutors here at Premier Training, and today we're going to look at the trial balance. So, what exactly is a trial balance? Most simply put, it's a list of every account balance we have in the main ledger. Let's have a look at an example. Here's an example of a simple trial balance. A typical business may have many more accounts than this. Here on the left we have our list of accounts. They can be in any order, but most typically you'll find them in alphabetical order. As you will know by now, every account will either have a debit balance or a credit balance. And when creating a trial balance, it's a very simple process of listing an account's debit balance in the left-hand column, or if the account has a credit balance, in the right-hand column. Now it's completely logical that because every entry we make into the main ledger on a daily basis has both a debit and a credit entry, that however many thousands of transactions we have or entries that we might make, debits will always equal credits. And regardless of where those entries are made and whatever our account balances ultimately are, when they're listed in the trial balance, our debits will always equal our credits. Okay, this is all great, but why and when do we need a trial balance? Firstly, it's one method of tracing errors. A trial balance ensures that for every debit entry recorded, a corresponding credit entry has been recorded in the books in accordance with the double entry concept of accounting. A trial balance can be created at any point in time as a useful summary of the account balances or a snapshot of the business at a specific time, and as a basic check that our debits equal our credits. But most importantly, it's carried out at the end of an accounting period as the first step in the preparation of a business's financial statements, the profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. You'll learn more about financial statements at level 3. Okay, so what if there's a problem and debits don't equal credits? We're only human, and with the best will in the world, errors will always be made at some point. So let's take a look at what this looks like. I've adjusted the figures slightly for Alpha Limited so that our columns don't agree. What we do here is temporarily create a suspense account with either a debit or a credit to bring our columns into balance. In this case, a £250 debit. Errors leading to the creation of a suspense account must be investigated and resolved as soon as possible so that our suspense account can be removed. It's important to note, however, that a trial balance only confirms that the total of debit balances match the total of credit balances, and therefore not all errors will necessarily be disclosed. An example of this is where we might post an expense to the wrong account, perhaps the electricity account instead of the gas account. As debits will still equal credits, our trial balance will still agree. Another example that wouldn't be disclosed by the trial balance is where both the debit and the credit entry have been missed, or even recorded twice. As such, debits will still equal credits and the trial balance will again still agree, hiding the error. Now, it's all well and good if we have the account balances to hand and we know whether each is a debit or a credit. However, a typical scenario you might encounter in your assessment is where you're given a list of account balances along with some accompanying information, and you will need to decide for yourself whether each is going to be a debit or a credit entry. Let's look at an example. There are a couple of useful tools we can use to help us remember whether each entry is going to be a debit or a credit. The first of these is PEARLS. This helps us remember that on the debit side are purchases, expenses and assets, and on the credit side, revenue, liabilities and sales. Another useful tool that doesn't get used that often is Dead Click, which helps us remember that on the debit side we can have debtors, expenses, assets, drawings, and on the credit side, creditors, liabilities, income and capital. Okay, these are helpful, but there are some accounts that may have either a debit or a credit balance. There are two main examples of this. The bank account from the cash book. Money in the bank is an asset and therefore will be a debit balance. Money owed to our bank, perhaps in the form of an overdraft, will have a credit balance. And the VAT account. If VAT is due from the HMRC, the VAT account will have a debit balance. And if we owe VAT to the HMRC, the VAT account will have a credit balance. In your assessment, you will always be given information to help you decide which is going to be which. Okay, let's have a go at completing our trial balance using the tools we have at the side. Starting at the top, administration. This is an expense and therefore will be a debit entry. The bank loan is a liability and therefore will be a credit. Capital will also be a credit entry. Cash at the bank is an asset and will be a debit entry. Cash sales is revenue and therefore will be a credit entry. Commission received is income and will be a credit entry. Fixtures and fittings, heating and lighting, and maintenance are all expenses and will be debit entries. Purchases is a debit entry. The purchase ledger control account, these are our creditors, and that will be a credit entry. Purchases returns will also be a credit entry. Sales, a credit entry. The sales ledger control account, these are our debtors, this will be a debit entry. Stock is an asset, this will be a debit entry. VAT, in this case owing to the HMRC, will be a credit entry. And wages and salaries are expenses and will be a debit entry. Okay, we can now add the two columns up and we can see that our debits equal our credits, and that completes our trial balance. Thank you for watching this presentation on the trial balance. If you have any queries, please feel free to contact your tutor at any time. Thank you.